name is Matt O'Brien. I'm also known as Beard, and I played drums in the band Toad and the Stooligans. I mean, music's been a part of my life my whole life. My dad was a radio DJ. He worked at WHJY for a little bit, and he worked at WRX for a little bit, so a lot of classic rock stuff. If we're talking about, like, when I started, I mean, I would make, like, mixtapes off of, you know, the local radio station, 95.5 WBRU, RIP. I started playing drums when I was 12 years old. Drums have always been the instrument that I gravitated towards. I'd, like, play on, like, tins and pots and pans in the backyard and do, like, concerts for my family and stuff like that. Our creative direction up to this point was always just to take hip-hop and throw it in a band setting. And I think that a lot of what occurred from that is you get a lot of alternative influence just naturally from what a lot of us listen to. I think there was definitely a lot of, like, minor jazz and funk influence on our first record, Very Handsome. Like, it was there, but the predominant factors were the hip-hop and the alternative side with definitely, like, some pop coding on it. We basically threw together, you know, whatever we thought sounded cool and whatever stuck for Very Handsome. And then we had some more songs that came and we just experimented with different ideas. And then we got to a point where we were, like, focusing on what the next release was going to be. So with Jesus Juice, there's definitely a lot more of, like, there's a lot of pop convention on it. There's a lot of different stuff all over the place. There's gospel influence. There's, like, those smoky room R&B type influences. There's kind of an indie pop ballad. Like, it's a really weird hodgepodge of stuff, but I think it's still distinctly us from what we did before, but it's bringing a lot more influence and it's more refined than where we had been previously. The recording process was really, for the most part, it was probably the fastest recording process I've ever been a part of. We were much more prepared, I think, than any other recording process we've ever gone into. So we recorded all the instruments with our buddy Brian Caudy, who has a home studio he has started up called Teal House Studios. And he's a big drum guy, so me and him have been, you know, buddies for a while. He's been friends with all of us. He's drum teched on basically all the projects that Alex, Dan, and I have worked on together between Stooligans and our other band, the Morgana Phase. Working with him was such a great experience. It was a totally laid-back vibe. It was someone we were comfortable with. Everything felt great. The input and the quality of the drum sounds that we got out of it were excellent, like second to none. The process was great. I mean, everything seemed to go by very quickly. The one thing that got very, very down to the wire was we started recording this album in January. We hit March, and all of a sudden, COVID is a thing. So the last thing that we needed to do recording-wise for the album was actually percussion. So I showed up at Caudy's house in the middle of a pandemic. This is the last day that I'm working, you know, in my office. They tell me that day, they're like, hey, you have to go home. Like, like you can't come back in and work. And I jet after work. I went over to Caudy's house on the way back. We social distance. We stayed like 6 feet apart because we didn't know how serious it was at that point. So we were all, you know, trying to play it safe, and we just got the percussion stuff done that night. That was a wrap. But other than that, it was probably the smoothest recording process I've ever been a part of. So it was good. My personal favorite is probably Headspin. It's got driving, but very, very laid back. Like I was saying before, that smoky room vibe. Toad and the Stooligans, Jesus Juice. By the time you see this, it's probably already out, but that's okay. I hope you listen to it, and I hope you either love it or hate it. I hope you're not somewhere in between. That's weird.